I'm going to level with you. What you're about to hear will permanently change how you read every human interaction. Friends, bosses, dates, strangers, all of it. Your dad didn't walk you through this. Your teachers wouldn't touch it. And most men go to their graves never seeing it, wondering why they kept losing ground they thought they'd earned. This isn't motivational fluff, and it isn't some syrupy, think positive seminar. It's the stuff people hide behind politeness, religion, and feel-good slogans because saying it out loud makes them uncomfortable. 5 centuries ago, an Italian civil servant named Niccolò Machiavelli wrote down truths about human nature so raw that polite society tried to bury them. Religious authorities denounced his book. Public figures still call it immoral, then study it in private. Why? Because it's not theory. It's a field manual for how people actually behave when the masks slip. Not how they claim to behave. Not how you wish they'd behave. And the way things function in real rooms with real stakes. You didn't learn any of this because culture trains you to ignore it. We're taught that power is dirty, that strategy equals manipulation, and that if you see reality clearly, you're cynical. But ignorance doesn't make you good. It makes you easy to use. When you see clearly, you don't become cruel. You become effective. You become steady. You become the person in the room who doesn't get pushed around. Here's the first truth. People aren't primarily logical. They're emotional. The myth that humans coolly calculate what's best for them is one of the most damaging fantasies out there. Most people don't choose what's optimal. They avoid pain and chase comfort. That's the algorithm. Machiavelli observed that most of us judge by appearances because it's easier than digging for substance. You see it everywhere. A friend asks for advice, nods along, then ignores it because change is uncomfortable. A coworker complains about being broke but can't give up the daily convenience purchase. Someone insists they want a kind partner, then runs toward the person who keeps them guessing because certainty feels flat and tension feels alive. What does that mean for you? Logic rarely wins hearts. Emotion does. Don't try to corner people with perfect arguments and bulletproof data. If they don't feel it, they won't follow it. Influence is about producing a feeling that aligns with the choice you want them to make. You don't say, "I'm right, here's the spreadsheet." You say, or better yet, you show. Choosing this makes you feel like the person you want to be. That's how leaders move crowds, teams, or even one person across a table. Not by debating, but by shaping the emotional frame. That doesn't mean lying. It means recognizing the language people actually respond to. The man who controls emotional temperature controls outcomes. The one who can cool a room, raise the stakes, add calm, or inject urgency on demand, will beat the fact shouter 9 times out of 10. Stop playing chess with facts alone. Start playing with resonance. Build your message around identity, status, belonging, aspiration, safety. Wrap the truth in meaning people care about, and the choice becomes obvious to them because it feels right. Yes, some will scream manipulation, but think about it. Every ad, every campaign, every negotiation, every fight between friends already runs on emotion. The game is happening whether you like it or not. Choosing not to understand it doesn't make you noble. It makes you predictable. Now, let's touch the sacred cow, loyalty. You were probably taught that loyalty is automatically virtuous. Be loyal to friends no matter what, to companies that call you family, to partners who want endless reassurance while keeping one foot out the door. Here's the sharper lens. Loyalty is not a default setting. It's earned and it's maintained through mutual respect and consistent value exchange. When loyalty flows only one way, it's not loyalty. It's leverage for the other side. Machiavelli's point about love and fear gets misunderstood, but the core is simple. If you're forced to choose, being respected is safer than being liked. Blind loyalty, giving without return, excusing patterns that cheapen you, isn't virtue. It's naivety. A man who won't withdraw his loyalty when it stops being reciprocated isn't devoted. He's training people to treat him as a convenience. So be generous with loyalty, but be precise. Reward those who show up with integrity. Match investment with investment. And when you notice the imbalance, don't make a speech. Make a decision. Step back. Let the absence of your presence say what your words don't need to. People value what can be lost. When you never step away, they never feel the cost. Reputation is the next pillar. You may have been told to focus on being liked, being nice, keeping the peace. But reputation isn't about likability. It's about reliability and edge. It's about what people expect from you when you're not in the room. There's a modern myth that authenticity means putting everything on display. That's not authenticity. That's exposure. Real authenticity is intentional. You decide what you reveal and when. Not to be fake, but to maintain coherence. Perception, like it or not, is part of reality. You can manage it or let it manage you. Want to look competent? Stop cataloging problems and start presenting solutions. Want to be seen as valuable? Don't be perpetually available. Scarcity amplifies perceived worth. Want to project strength? Quit over-explaining your choices to people who have no say in your future. Build an aura of mystery, consistency, and selective vulnerability. The person others can't fully read pulls gravity without trying. All of this sets the stage for a harder truth most people avoid. Conflict isn't optional. It's inevitable. You don't have to seek it, but you do have to be ready for it. And readiness, emotional control, strategic thinking, a steady presence, starts with what's going on inside you. That's where we go next. You've been told all your life to avoid conflict. Be agreeable. Don't make waves. But Machiavelli knew better. He wrote that war can only be postponed to the advantage of others. Conflict is not optional. It's inevitable. Pretending life is neutral is how people end up blindsided. In every arena, business, relationships, social circles, someone is always pushing, testing, trying to take ground from you. And the man who walks through life unprepared for confrontation is already losing. That doesn't mean you should walk around picking fights. It means you prepare so you don't have to prove yourself. The man who trains in peace is the one others instinctively hesitate to test. That quiet readiness carries weight. He doesn't brag about his strength. He doesn't need to. When pressure comes, he's already armed, with discipline, skill, and clarity. That's why people respect him even when they don't fully understand him. Think of the lion and the fox. Two images Machiavelli leaned on. The lion defends himself with raw force. The fox avoids traps with intelligence. Alone, each has weaknesses. Together, they're nearly untouchable. That's the combination you need. The strength to push back when necessary, and the cunning to see moves before they happen. Most men are only one or the other. That's why they either get tricked or get crushed. You need both. But here's where most men get chained. The lie that being nice is the same as being good. Growing up, you were probably told to be agreeable, to keep people happy, to smile, nod, and soften your edges. Maybe you believed that by being nice enough you'd be rewarded, but life doesn't work that way. Niceness is often confused with weakness. It's not respected, it's used. Nice men bend themselves into knots to avoid conflict. They say yes when they should say no. They tolerate things they hate just to keep the peace. Goodness, on the other hand, is different. A good man tells the truth even when it costs him. A good man holds his standards even when it makes him unpopular. A good man risks being misunderstood because principle matters more than approval. Women say they want nice guys, but time after time they choose men who challenge them, because at a primal level, they sense strength in boundaries and weakness in compliance. That's why nice gets overlooked. But good with steel in his spine gets respect. Look at the men history remembers. CEOs, presidents, generals, champions. Were they nice? Rarely. But were they cruel? No. They were firm. They were clear. They were focused. They didn't apologize for their presence. They didn't live by public opinion. They lived by their own code. That's why people followed them. Here's another trap. The belief that authenticity means pouring out your entire self to everyone. It doesn't. That's not power, that's exposure. Authenticity is about choosing what to reveal and when. Managing perception isn't faking. It's being intentional. In human interaction, perception is reality. If you appear competent, people will treat you as competent. If you appear scarce, people will value your time. If you appear mysterious, people lean in. That's not deception, it's discipline. Want to be respected? Stop explaining yourself to people who don't affect your future. Want to be valued? Don't make yourself endlessly available. Want to be powerful? Master silence and scarcity. The man who speaks less but moves with precision has more gravity than the one who constantly explains himself. Legends are built on controlled personas, not open diaries. So stop trying to convince people with arguments and over-explanations. Stop bending yourself to be liked. Respect doesn't come from noise. It comes from presence. And when you begin carrying yourself with that quiet clarity, people notice. The room shifts. Conversations adjust, not because you demanded it, but because you built it. And this is where we step into the next truth, the one that most men never want to face. In a world of masks and competition, the greatest weapon you'll ever own is control over yourself. Emotional control, strategic silence, a presence that unsettles those who try to test you. Because the man who can't be rattled is the man who can't be used. Most people move through life like emotional pinballs, bouncing from irritation to excitement to fear without ever realizing how exposed they are. They get triggered, they overshare, they panic, they crave comfort right now. That predictability makes them easy prey for anyone who knows how to watch. If you can be provoked, you can be controlled. If you can be read, you can be played. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He wrote that men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims. What does that mean today? It means most people live by impulses, what they want in the moment, what soothes them right now. They don't stop to see the bigger pattern. They don't question motives. They follow the emotional beat like background music, unaware someone else set the rhythm. But you don't have to live like that. The shift begins when you start observing reality as it is, not as you wish it were. You watch what people do, not what they say. You notice patterns, not promises. You measure actions, not intentions. The friend who's loyal only when you say yes. The boss who praises but never promotes. The partner who says honesty matters while hiding their phone. These aren't mysteries, they're signals. Most people just don't want to admit them. Once you accept what's right in front of you, you gain an advantage that few ever touch. Quiet, strategic power. Not the kind that shouts for attention, but the kind that doesn't need it. You stop chasing approval and start attracting respect. You stop asking permission and start making decisions. You move differently, deliberate, precise, steady. From here, you adopt a new code. One that doesn't rely on outdated ideals of chivalry or endless agreement. One that recognizes perception as a weapon, loyalty as conditional, emotion as the driver, and conflict as inevitable. When you start living this way, you stop being the man others can predict. You stop being the man who folds just to be liked. Instead, you become the one people hesitate before disrespecting. The one who doesn't need to shout, because his presence already shifts the air. Here's the trap society built for you. It told you comfort is the goal. Stay agreeable. Stay predictable. Stay soft enough and maybe people will reward you. But comfort is the enemy of greatness. Comfort keeps you neutralized. It makes you easy to manage. That's why Machiavelli's book was banned, because it stripped away the illusion that goodness alone keeps you safe. It revealed that life doesn't reward purity, it rewards strategy. Not innocence, but intelligence. Power isn't about being flashy. It isn't about forcing fear through intimidation. Real power is the quiet certainty of a man who knows his own value and refuses to let the world cheapen it. That kind of man doesn't fold when tested. He doesn't cling to approval. He doesn't apologize for having standards. He holds the line, even if it costs him, especially if it costs him. Because respect is built on consequence, not compliance. And when you finally grasp this, everything changes. People start leaning in when you speak. They lower their voices around you. They choose their words more carefully. They wonder what you're thinking because you no longer give it away freely. You stop needing to prove yourself in arguments. You stop needing to be liked. You simply exist, solid, grounded, unmoved. And that's when you notice something. People start chasing your approval, even as you stop chasing theirs. You don't earn this kind of presence by being louder or nicer. You earn it by discipline, saying less, moving intentionally, guarding your emotions, and refusing to explain yourself to anyone who hasn't earned the right to hear you. In a world where everyone overshares, your mystery becomes magnetic. Where everyone reacts, your restraint becomes power. Where everyone chases, you attract. This is the presence Machiavelli understood. Influence isn't about volume. It's about gravity, not about noise, but about weight. And when your words carry weight, when your silence carries weight, you don't need to demand respect. You command it. Now, let's move to the next layer. The weapon most men never master. Self-control. Because if you don't govern yourself, someone else always will. The greatest weapon you will ever hold isn't money, charm, or even brute strength. It's self-control. Because in a world addicted to indulgence and instant gratification, the man who governs himself becomes untouchable. While others react, you respond. While others chase, you attract. While others obey impulses, you choose. That difference is everything. Think about the men you've seen lose everything in a moment of weakness. A politician who couldn't control his desires, a businessman who made a reckless deal, a fighter who lost his cool in the ring. Each one gave away power, not because they lacked opportunity, but because they lacked control over themselves. The person who can provoke you owns you. The person who can bait you into oversharing can use you. The person who can push you into defending yourself has already dictated the frame. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He never advised reckless outbursts. He taught patience, timing, and restraint. He knew that if people can predict your reactions, they can plan around you. But when you become unreadable, when you master the ability to remain calm and deliberate, you shift the entire dynamic. Mystery becomes your shield. Uncertainty becomes your advantage. There's a reason powerful men throughout history kept their words scarce and their emotions guarded. Every move they made was intentional. Every silence had weight. They didn't need to broadcast what they were thinking. They let others wonder. And when people can't read you, they hesitate. Hesitation is power. This doesn't mean becoming robotic or cold. It means becoming strategic. You don't reveal every thought, every feeling, every plan. You reveal only what strengthens your position. Every conversation becomes a chess piece, not a dice roll. Every word becomes a tool, not a leak. You stop playing by emotions and start playing by design. Most people, though, live in the opposite direction. They think the world is fair, that if they work hard, they'll be noticed, that if they love purely, they'll be loved back, that if they're good enough, life will reward them. But Machiavelli shattered that illusion centuries ago. Life doesn't reward goodness, it rewards awareness. The world doesn't follow justice, it follows power. Power isn't always loud or flashy. Sometimes it's as simple as being comfortable alone because you refuse to sell pieces of yourself for approval. Sometimes it's walking away from situations that don't serve your purpose. Sometimes it's sticking to your standards even when it costs you. That's the kind of power people can't help but respect, even if they don't admit it. Most men, when faced with pressure, fold. They'd rather be comfortable than respected. They'd rather be liked than firm. But not you, not anymore. You've seen now that comfort without strength is just a trap. You've realized that the world isn't neutral, that someone is always watching, evaluating, positioning. You've recognized that human behavior is not random, but patterned. And the moment you master yourself, you begin to master the game. You stop reacting to life. You stop letting other people dictate the frame. You start moving with intention, with design. And suddenly, people adjust to you instead of the other way around. They hesitate before speaking carelessly. They measure themselves against you. They wonder what you'll do next, because they no longer know. This is the transformation most men never reach. They stay trapped in the cycle of needing validation, of reacting emotionally, of explaining themselves endlessly. But once you step out of that, you don't just play the game differently, you become the game. You no longer chase power, you become it. Not through dominance over others, but through mastery over yourself. And that's the heart of true masculinity. Strength with direction, vision with discipline, fire with control. Respect isn't something you beg for, it's something you radiate. Not through noise, but through presence. The room feels you before you speak. People correct themselves without you asking. They sense your standards without you having to announce them. That is power. Quiet, deliberate, undeniable. Now let's go even deeper, because once you see the world this way, there's no going back. This is where it all comes together. Once you've seen the mechanics of power, you can't unsee them. You recognize that everyone is playing a game, even those who swear they're not. The ones who insist, "I just want to be myself," are usually the most desperate to fit in. The ones who claim they don't care about influence are the ones chasing it hardest. Most people are living reactively, blind to the patterns guiding their own lives. But not you. You've stepped outside the illusion. Now, you don't need to chase power, you embody it. Not by controlling others, but by controlling yourself. Not by shouting, but by shaping perception. Not by being loud, but by being felt. Presence becomes your greatest weapon. Your aura speaks before you do. And when people can't predict you, when they don't know how you'll respond, respect takes root. Understand this. Life never rewarded men for being endlessly good. It rewarded those who were strategic, those who understood leverage, those who combined kindness with boundaries and goodness with strength. To be respected, you must be willing to say no without guilt, to withdraw without apology, to let people feel the cost of losing your presence. Scarcity builds value, distance builds gravity, and silence, when chosen, becomes louder than any defense. Most men crumble under pressure. They apologize for taking up space. They sell their peace for comfort. But greatness demands the opposite. It demands that you hold your ground when tested, that you walk away from anything that cheapens your standards, that you stop giving your time and energy to people who haven't earned it. Machiavelli's warning was clear. If you cannot be both loved and feared, it is safer to be feared. Not through cruelty or intimidation, but through consequence, through principle, through strength. That kind of fear is respect. The respect that keeps people cautious with their words. The respect that stops them from testing your limits. The respect that makes them whisper about you when you leave the room. Not because you begged for attention, but because your presence left an imprint they can't shake. This is what separates the few from the many. Not talent, not luck, not intelligence alone, but clarity, strategic thinking, the ability to delay gratification, the refusal to live reactively. Once you start seeing patterns, you stop being played. You stop being the pawn and start moving like the one writing the rules. And here's the final truth. You were never supposed to learn this. You were meant to stay predictable, to obey, to soften yourself for acceptance, to keep yourself harmless. But you didn't. You broke the script. You opened the forbidden book. And now you see, that clarity comes with weight. From this moment forward, your silence will say more, your presence will affect more, and your decisions will carry more consequence. You can no longer claim ignorance. You've woken up, and once awake, you can never go back to sleep. So, what now? You walk differently. You speak less, but with intent. You measure your loyalty. You withdraw it when it's no longer earned. You stay prepared for conflict, not because you want it, but because you understand it's coming. You learn to hold mystery, to guard your emotions, to present scarcity instead of endless availability. You learn to be kind without being soft, good without being naive. Because in the end, the most powerful man in the room is not the one who demands attention. It's the one who doesn't need to prove anything. The one who knows exactly who he is and refuses to compromise it for anyone. That man shifts the atmosphere without effort. That man is remembered, respected, and never ignored. This is your new code. Stop living reactively. Stop selling yourself for approval. Stop mistaking niceness for strength. Start moving with strategy. Start embodying presence. Start wielding silence, scarcity, and self-control as the weapons they truly are. Because from this point forward, you are not playing checkers anymore. You are playing chess. And the board belongs to the one who sees the whole game.